Welcome back to Total Barnage. I'm joined today with Charles Xavier himself.
Yes.
Bit of a role reversal today, Charlie. I'm taking the lead. I'm going to be the interviewer, and you are going to be my guest.
I know. I've been told I'm not allowed to speak unless I'm spoken to.
Exactly.
Today.
It's not funny, Charlie. So we're going to be very serious. And Charlie, tell me, what is it like to be able to run a 15-minute 5K? What's that feel like?
Oh, it feels like a distant memory is what it feels like. I think I might have been able to do it about 3 years ago. But, wow. What a horrible question to start off with. Because in a week's time, actually, when this podcast comes out, I'm going to be in a complete big knee brace.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to be in surgery this time next week, aren't you?
Yeah. This might even come out when I'm still under and don't know if I'm going to return to the scene of living.
Terribly exciting stuff, Charles. Terribly exciting stuff.
I think the best chance of me getting a sub 15 5K is if I go full kind of like wheelchair, nitro, downhill. Just push me.
Yeah.
Push and hope.
Running downhill is one of my specialities. I can do it quite quickly. But Charlie, look, you've been interviewing us the past few weeks, and you're obviously new to the team. You only joined in summer, and people want to know about Xavier.
No one knows who I am.
You've just been asking the questions. So what drew you into doing individual sport rather than team sport? Because I'm a team sport person. I've done individual sport.
Yeah.
I never really resonated with it quite as much as, the previous podcast of this is me talking about rugby and how much I love that because of the team element. And I've transitioned over to doing CrossFit comps, powerlifting, strongman, running, all individual sports, but nothing has quite got that itch like rugby. So what pulled you into running as an individual sport?
Well, I did do a lot of team sports when I was younger. I was just very good at running, simply very good at running, good at sprinting, always a little fast kid. But I was into, my dad, he was really good for pushing us into all different sports. So I was kind of started at TJ's, under sevens, played all the way through until I was like 13. Played a lot of football as a kid. But yeah, my dad took me down to the track when I was 6. And there was a few races going on at the time, and he wanted to get me into running and training. And the distance at that time was the 600 meters. So until you get to about 11 years old, you run a 75 meters as your sprint, a 600 meters as your distance, and then you do long jump or maybe javelin with like the foam javelins. But yeah, he took me to the track and he said, you got to run a lap and a half at the Tunbridge School track, where, I would still go back and train there. It's where I do all my gym stuff. It's where I went to school. And so having that as a 6-year-old looking at and having to run a lap and a half of this massive track, I was terrified.
That's quite intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's huge. I mean, now, I'm a big boy. It's like you go back to your primary school, like classrooms and look at the chairs. They're diddy.
Yeah, they're small for some. Yeah. But there's some people...
Not for 6-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean...
But yeah, it was because I was good at it. It's because I found that I enjoyed running. I had a little challenge which was from home. We had from our house down in North Tunbridge that we lived at for the first kind of 15 years of my life. There was a post box just around the corner. It was probably about maybe 250 meters. You run up the hill, up the slope, turn left, get to the post box, and then my dad would have something for me to post. And so ages of 6 or 7, he'd give it to me. I'd have a little leaderboard. I'd have to post the letterbox to know that I've got that far. And then I'd have to run back to where he's standing at the front door, and I'd have to check my times. And it was around maybe like 1 minute 15 or something. It's probably only about 200 meters or so. But I did that so much so that even if we didn't have any post to put in the letterbox, then I'd still go and do it.
So you're competitive from day one in that running element with that.
Yeah. It was definitely, I just enjoyed getting out. I had a lot of energy to burn.
So what was the first competition you did where you were like, holy shit, I'm actually good at running and I can make something of this?
Oh, it's funny actually. Yeah. So when I was in year 6, so I had, so cross country wise, when I was like year 3, I was probably as quick as a lot of the year 6 kids. I would go to our local cross country meets and just obliterate most people, which was hilarious. And so much so that whenever I started the races, people would I'd always hear whispers as I've bombed off with them saying like, oh, he's gone off too quick. You know, he's gone off too fast. Just wait until he dies and, you know, falls back. Because that's what happens at like primary school cross country is you have the kids that sprint off and then slow down and then sprint again and you try and overtake them and then they go again. But I got to a really high level even before I left primary school. So my year 6 cross country, I made it to, there was this thing called the UK Cross Challenge, sponsored by McCain crisps, chips at the time. And there's the Americanism slipping out. McCain chips. And we went over to Bristol. And I won that race there. And then there was the main one, the UK Cross Challenge up in Liverpool. And I won that one as well. And then I came into my track season, just finishing school. And I ran my first ever 1500 meters that I ran was like 4:52. And by the end of the season, I ended up running 4:34 for a 1500.
Wow.
Which was like a 4:50 mile. And that was the quickest in the UK by about 11 seconds.
So that was your moment where you were like, oh,
I was like,
I'm quite a lot better than everyone else here.
Yeah. It sounds horrendous. I was winning kind of like South of England titles and top ranked. Obviously just the first year of doing it. So good at the age of 11 that I didn't run quicker over my 1500 the year after.
Wow.
I fucking flopped and ran slow the year after. But yeah, we had it like my coach, Mark Hookway. We were racing in Bromley once, and my previous best in the 1500 was like 4:41. I went over to Bromley with my dad, and I ran, and I just took off and just went for it. Ended up running 4:34, which was the best time, and it was so much better than kind of what we expected. Like taking 7 seconds off, it's just it's, unheard of. If you have an athlete that would do that at our age, you just get done for being on drugs.
Yeah, this is such a large increase.
But yeah, my coach thought it was a typo. He thought we meant 4:43, and then we were like, no, it's 4:34.
Wow.
So yeah, that was funny. I mean, that was a really funny year because that was London 2012, the Olympics, and I got my scholarship to Tunbridge School, went to state primary school, got a scholarship to Tunbridge. They sent me to a private school for 2 years, for year 7 and 8. And so I needed to get something out of my system before I went there and, got all done up right and proper and all posh and everything. And I got some tram lines in the back of my head of the Olympic rings. So I had the Olympic rings in the back of my head at the age of 11. Went into the Turkish barbershop, A&S Barbers in Tunbridge. And this was when you kind of sit down and you read the newspaper. They've got loads of photos of like David Beckham on the wall and like George Clooney. And you go, oh, I want that haircut.
A classic barbers.
Yeah, they've probably still set the same photos today. But I said to them, I want to get the Olympic rings in the back of my head. And the guy was like, oh, how many do you want? I was like, oh, no, like the five rings, like the five Olympic rings. And he said, oh, okay, great. Like, do you want them like coloured in? And I said, no, like, don't worry about the colours. But then it meant for the rest of that season, before I started in year 7 at the new school, I can imagine the people that were getting beaten by me in races, all they could see was this little twat with Olympic rings in the back of his head. And they're focusing like this kid's getting away, and it's like just staring at these 5 rings. Like, it must be an absolute knobhead. But
yeah, you probably were an absolute knobhead at that age.
Probably was, yeah. Probably was.
So, I mean, kind of going on from that younger career, what have been your proudest achievements in athletics and running since then, kind of getting into your later teens and 20s?
So my teenage years were disrupted a lot with injuries, and so one of a lot of them are like comeback stories, races where I've been out and then come back and ran really well. One of them was a win at Kent Champs as an under 17, and I broke the 2-minute barrier for 800 for the first time. So as like a 13-year-old, I was running like 2:06, and then couldn't really run for a couple of years. And I came back, and won the Kent Champs. It was a race against one of the guys in our training group at the moment, Jack Higgins, who is now a very, very good 800, 1500 meter runner. He's run 1:45 now. So, but I ended up beating him in a sprint finish. Some kid went off so fast in the first lap. This kid bombed it about 6 seconds quicker than we went through, and we just reeled him in, and you could see him just swimming. And I just remember I was like, Charlie, just be patient. And then with 100 meters to go, kicked and ended up winning that Kent Champs title, which was good. It's a nice comeback. I was wearing the silly little like calf sleeves because I had like shin splints.
Oh man.
Yeah. That was a good one. And then going on from that, I think my proudest one is coming second at England under 23s, because I was out for 7 months. I kind of quit the sport a little bit, took myself out of the sport the year before.
Why did you do that?
It's kind of complex. But the bottom line was that I was putting so much pressure on myself in even things that didn't matter in running, like trying to focus in the race, struggling to focus in the race or struggling to be present. And I put so much pressure on myself in that year that it didn't matter how fast I ran. If in the race I wasn't in the right mind frame, then I would catastrophize it. And it was, I'd have like a lot of dissociation. So I'd almost have like out of body experiences when I was running. And there was a point in a race where I was so distant from it that it was almost like I was watching myself run. Well, I was kind of like third person looking over myself run the whole race. And then after that, I was just like, this is horrible. And I just quit for that year. And then I came back.
And were you training in between that initial, like, I'm giving it up for now? What were you doing? Were you still running for fun, or did you just stop running? It
was only about 6 weeks, but I just stopped running.
Yeah.
And then I got back after 6 weeks and said, right, I just want to ease myself back into it. And then I mentioned it in in the solo episode, was I decided to do a backflip at a friend's 21st. And then I was out injured for 7 months.
Oh man. But you speak of that 6 week period as, you were not running and you took rest. And for a normal person listening in, 6 weeks won't sound like an awful lot of time, but when you're properly training and at a high level sport, that feels like an age, right? Mm-hmm. You're taking yourself completely away from what your life is. It has a massive impact on your mental health as well, because your body has this expectation, like, where's the exercise? Where's the exertion of energy? Mm-hmm. And I think it sometimes can lead to even more frustration, but in a way, it is nice to pull yourself away from it and relax. But I remember for me in the rugby off season, when I was in the thick of it, like you definitely need the off season because your body is like mashed by the end of it. But you're already thinking, like, people dread pre-season and the fitness, but I would love it because I just thrive in the fitness of the pre-season. But all I was thinking about was that that first pre-season game when you're playing on the hard mud. Oh. But anyway, it's it can feel a lot longer, and it's very different when you're kind of competing at a high level, pulling yourself away from it for that amount of time. But I guess kind of going back into it, why did you want to get back into it? I mean, it sounds like you kind of had enough.
Yeah, I think, and this is the thing with competing at a high level, is it really exposes where you're at in life. And so it was more so, it wasn't that the running was a problem. It was just that it exposed any sort of thing which I saw as an inadequacy at the time. I was struggling a lot with my memory and trying to like remember things. And if I would have a race where I would almost have like race amnesia, I remember racing maybe in the middle of the season. I sat in the car and I'd have, my dad and my brother ask me, "Oh, what about that bit of the race? What about?" And I'm just like, I can't remember any of it. I just wasn't there. I wasn't present. And in my life at the time, my memory was so important, because I'm like, if I don't have my memory, what else do I have? And it was more that the running just was the kind of the testing ground for where I was at in general, rather than the running itself. But I knew that taking myself out of it was just good for my life. And then I went and saw a therapist to talk through a lot of what was going on and built up over the previous 2 years. And so that 6 weeks, it is, now being out of the sport for so long, it flies by. But that 6 weeks was definitely like an intense 6 weeks of me switching my mindset, seeking help, just in general, taking a bit of pressure off myself. My therapist, he was just like, just try and loosen your grip on what's going on in your head, certain things that you would put pressure on yourself with. And so it felt like a long period, but then it was, there's no pressure to get back when you get into the winter.
Yeah.
Because September, so I got back like mid-September, and you're just easing back into training. It's not like I've got any races lined up.
What were your main takeaways going through that sports therapy?
One thing was how I used, because it wasn't specific to like sports really, but one thing was how I used the therapy. So I probably had about 8 sessions over those 6 weeks, and I'm very like attuned. I pay a lot of attention to things, and I was wondering why I felt better. Like I'd immediately after that first session, I felt so much lighter afterwards, and really noticed a real change. Just like sat back in my car, and I wrote down in my little journal that I was like, I just feel lighter. I'm out on my run. Things have just lifted a little bit, and I found myself, I still hadn't opened the door to speak to other people about it. Really, I got to a point where I didn't want to really talk to anyone else about it, but the safe space was the therapy with this guy who I didn't even know, right? I've just been introduced to him, but I'm like, oh, he's a professional. He knows his stuff. And I saw how I used the therapy. So I kind of saw that I used it because I wait to tell him from the Wednesday to the Wednesday, and I'd keep it still in my head or write it down. I wouldn't tell anyone else for the rest of the week. And so I noticed very quickly that I started using the therapy as kind of like a drug, which is an interesting thing. And I used it as something that I was kind of waiting then to offload. And so in that 6 week period, I then thought to myself, I said, okay, well, I've been able to talk through some things, maybe some practical takeaways, just loosen my grip on things, maybe doing some meditation, some body scanning, just to bring that dissociation just back to try and like reconnect with my body. So my mind and my body were like felt physically and like just in themselves very, very separate. So there were practical things there. But the main thing was that I wanted to use the stuff that I learned in the therapy about how the conversation happened, and almost that it is important to talk about things, but also I could have that outside of the room it's not just confined to going to the room in those four walls, associating everything with that space and saying, okay, how can I use this space in my day to day? And can I open up to and talk to my friends about it and see how I react to the conversations there. So it's, it's a blessing and a curse of paying so much attention to things, is that I can get really like worked up and zoomed in, but also that 6 weeks for me, if I'm paying attention more than a usual person, it's 10x that shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, most people, when they go to therapy, they're in points in their life where, depression does affect your memory and how much you can take away from it. So if you're super present in your sessions, you're gonna take an awful lot more away. But so anyway, you went through this experience and then you did a backflip, injured yourself for 7 months.
7 months.
And then you returned to training and you go to the English Championships.
Yeah, so I got back. It was supposed to be 6 months, but it went on for a little bit longer. I actually went out to Portugal on a training camp, hoping that I'd be healthy, and then went out there and I was injured again. And that was in April. So September to April. I then started training in May, like properly training, also doing cross training and strength stuff before that. First race back in Manchester, ran my fastest time of all time. Ran faster than I did the previous year.
What time was that?
That was 1:51.38.
Pretty bloody quick.
That's
in the 800 meters, guys.
Over the 800 meters, yeah. So 1:51.3 over there. I then the next week ran under 1:51. I then won the Southern Champs the week after that. So South of England 800 meter champs, I won that. And the competition wasn't as high in that because the Southern Champs, the pedigree of it, with the amount of races that people are doing, it wasn't like a true, like you're not the fastest in the South of England, but you're the fastest of the people that rock up. And then a few weeks after that, I came second at the England under 23 champs.
What time did you run in that race?
That was 1:50.47. So it wasn't necessarily, I think I ran another 1:52 in the heats, and it just came super comfortable at that point. And then I took out the race. They had an Aussie in the race, but he wasn't allowed to score, so he was like a guest runner. So he won it, technically. I came third in the race, but the second Brit. So I led out like the second pack, and then I got overtaken by one of my mates, Harry. And he wasn't my mate before, I didn't really know him before. He was my mate after. But yeah, so I ran 1:50 there, and that was super hot. But that was the culmination of, I just had just a sense of relief of the glimpses that I had in that winter period of saying it is really worth sticking with it. It all kind of caught up to me in that moment and said, like, wow, this wasn't what I did today, but this is what I did on the 11th of December when I didn't want to do that session, or that the time in Portugal in April where I get disheartened and maybe try and run through an injury and be like, actually no, even though you're out here to train, just go to the gym and get on the bike or something.
Yeah, I mean, being the second best runner in England is quite a thing and quite an achievement. So post that race, you obviously went over to the States. What was that period between you coming second in the nationals? How did Clemson become a thing? So that was a year and a half before I went out. So I had a whole nother season after that. Oh, wow. And how did that season go?
It went quite well. The week after that England champs, I got injured again. So I was out for another 5 months. What
did you injure?
I had patella tendinopathy in my left knee. And then after 2.5 months, that sorted itself out. But then I had the tracking problem in my right knee.
So the tracking problem has been a thing for a fair few years.
Yeah, it's kind of my anatomy, is that my knee is called like patella alta. It means that my kneecap sits high in its groove. And so at that point, for whatever reason, like the quad being tight would pull the knee up. But yeah, so that I had, come back from injury again. I had a good season, but I was really just way too excited to get things going. I really kind of messed up that season in terms of races because I was in such good shape at the start, and I made the final of British University Champs, came sixth there, and then the week after that ran 149, which is my best 800. But then for about 6, and I really wanted to make the European team for the under-23s. And it was early in the season, it was in June. And so I was then like, right, I'm just going to race myself fit. And I was racing every 5 days. I was driving down to Loughborough, I was driving down to Manchester, back down home, and all still going through my like dissertation, like my final year exams at uni. And so those 5 weeks, I made the final with the under-23 champs again. Got absolutely cooked in the final because I messed up my caffeine timing. I took it way too early and then just had like an adrenaline dump just before I started. And I was like, oh shit. But that was kind of like a really early season. I peaked early, but I just ran myself into the ground a little bit. And then, and that was the year that I was looking around at the States. And it got to a point in that year that it made sense to go in January over to Clemson. Sam, my brother, got me in contact with a guy called Luke Allen at Forte Sports Management, and he knew the Clemson coach, and so he said, he's had some really good 800 meter runners. It's more of a 400 meter, 800 meter kind of like training program, which suited me because I'm a lot more, we call it like fast twitch, bit more sprintery than like someone that's going to go and run a 5K. And so then kind of got in contact with him. We then got run through, sorted out like a partial scholarship, and then went out there in January. And
when you arrived at Clemson, how did you find the training programs were different? Because I know you've mentioned to me before the intensity of Clemson was very different to the UK system. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a lot of runners were getting injured, even more so than the system over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Basically, the training, there's a couple of things that were different with the training. One was that, on the whole, everyone is training for the same races. And so you kind of need to be on track with everyone else's timetable and the university's like meet schedule. So you don't have flexibility not as much flexibility if you have a little ache or pain here and there. You kind of are, you kind of have to fit the structure. And then another one was that we'll have training every day pretty much from 2 till 6. That's when it's like blocked off. We'll do double days. I was told to run my easy runs a lot faster, which, I'd run my easy runs at like 6-minute miling instead of like 7:30.
Yeah, that's a hell of a difference.
Which is a big difference. And I got warned about it before. And again, I think I was just excited to get out there and be like, I had the best training leading up to it. I trained on all of my own programming for the 20 weeks leading up to it. And I was in like really, really good shape. And I just really wanted to give something new a go. Kind of terrible idea. But so the easy runs are a lot quicker. We did all of our sessions on the indoor track. So they've got an amazing indoor facility, like one of the best indoor facilities in the world. And so we use that for a lot of our training. But it means that on an indoor track, it's 200 meters. You've got the banked bends and you're doing a lot of faster stuff, maybe a lot more in spikes. So my Achilles ended up blowing up about 3 weeks into training with them.
Wow. So early on.
Yeah, pretty much as soon as, it felt like it was as soon as I got there. I just got this like Achilles tendonitis, bursitis, like just super, super stiff. Plus an extra bit is then there's a new gym program. And if you add up like fast, easy runs, sessions, like more aggressive sessions and a lot more weight training, you then pretty much like my mind could handle it and I could kind of push through anything. Because that was what I was focusing on previously before I went there. But my body was just like, nah, no thanks. So I pretty much got injured at the end of mid-February when I got there out in January. Injured mid-Feb.
Man.
Rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is. And now you're back here.
Now I'm back here.
Yeah, you're back at Barn.
At Barn.
Returned
Joining.
to Barn.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what was your biggest takeaway of going to Clemson, going, training at a high level at one of the biggest universities in the States? I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it was so cool. It's so cool. Yeah.
Do you regret it?
I don't regret it. I don't really regret anything, in the sense that I always base my decisions on the information I've got at the time. And as long as I've got clarity making the decision and it aligns with where I'm at the moment, I can't really hold myself to any sort of regret. So before, it was the right decision to go out there. Looking back on it, I would have been way better off from a running perspective, not going. However, I can't really limit it just to that measure of success.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I've learned, for better or worse at the moment, I've changed, completely in the last couple of years. My perspective of going out there, like takeaways of just being around, like our coach, he's a Jamaican coach as well for the Olympic team. We had pro athletes training with us. We had Natoya Gould, who's the Jamaican record holder over the 800, training in our group, and having that environment, having people that are just unbelievably talented. You just learn so much from them. And like I say, all I do is I just pay attention to people. I pay attention and then I try it out. I experiment. If it doesn't work for me, then I kind of switch it up. And the one thing that I learned out there is that, first of all, the environment does a hell of a lot for you. We had a structure of training, and you have to attend, right? So you have that. You're bought into the program. You have to do it, and so it became automatic. Like, we'd have these really heavy training weeks. I'd still also be doing like my masters out there, and it was so easy compared to getting the discipline to do it myself.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing, which is like, if you can get an environment or you can be around people that are going to lift you up and be positive. And that was another thing about America, is they've got this like toxic positivity where,
coming from a Brit there,
Mate, I was paranoid. I was like, they were so happy to see me. They were like, they wanted me to say all of these words and everything. And I was just like, what do you want from me? Like, why are you being so nice?
Yeah, I think that's always the thing when you meet Americans. You almost think that the positivity and the happiness is fake. Especially, in England, it's the opposite of that.
Cynical.
You almost want to hit someone if they're being that nice to you.
Yeah.
Just like...
Well, you think they're taking the piss.
Yeah.
It's just the tone that they say it in. I just like...
It's almost like, are you being sarcastic, or is that actually authentic you? Mm-hmm. Can I have a conversation with you rather than this facade? But it is actually them the majority of the time. They are just happy over there. They don't have this though, do they, Charlie? This grey, dark, wet, miserable weather.
No, and that was a shame.
But
I like this weather.
You and I don't get too affected by the weather. I crack on, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, it is a big thing.
It's the dark more than the weather for me. Getting, I can completely understand, because I always talk about the habits, right? You are a result of your own habits. So I'm cracking on and doing runs in the dark at the minute, and I'm starting to find some joy in it.
It's fun enough.
Yeah. But for a regular person without any of these habits built into their life, going out in a run in the evening when it's wet, cold and dark, yeah, it's not... It's just not doable. Mm-hmm. Well, unless they build that up. But it comes down to the environment as well, right? Like, I've set my life up pretty much as easy. It is as easy as possible for me to stay in shape. I buy the right food. I don't really have any crap in my house to eat. Mm-hmm. I live above a gym. I live in the countryside. So if ever I'm feeling anxious or stressed, I'll just go on a walk. But I've created that environment for my health because I am inherently lazy. Like that I understand myself, so I've built out that not everyone can do that, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. You talking about Clemson, it's the same thing. They've created an environment where you're surrounded by amazing athletes. They've scheduled in everything for you, and they just churn out high level athletes continuously. But the work volume is crazy. I mean, like, how many hours were you doing a week?
Yeah, it's interesting. Churning out the high level athletes is the thing that I wouldn't want to admit before going out there. But it's like the recruiting was amazing. The programming for us, like a couple of lads have just left. I don't think there's really anyone. I mean, Brian's still there, but there's no one else really there that was there when I joined. A couple have left because they finished their degree. But it's like the recruiting was so good, and then the programming, not so much. But training wise, yeah. So like Monday, I would go for a run in the morning, like 40 minutes. In the evening, we do like a 60-minute run and then a gym session. So in the gym session, probably about an hour and a half.
So that's about 3 hours.
About 3 hours. The Tuesday, we do a track session. It's probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, so that's like 5 hours, let's call it, by the time you warmed up and everything.
Yeah, 5. Wednesday, we do the same as Monday. So that will bring us to, what's that, 8 hours in total. Thursday, same as Tuesday. Friday, same as Monday. So you got like, and Saturday is pretty much the same as Tuesday and Thursday.
You're talking about, 17, 18 hours of training a week.
Yeah.
In that ballpark. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
obviously really, not running all of that. Like I'd be doing maybe 40 to 50 miles a week and then 3 big gym sessions.
But that's,
but it's intense as well.
That's with high intensity. That's an awful lot of volume. I mean, most listeners today, they're pretty chuffed with 3 gym workouts a week. That's 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. But as we know, you can see bloody good results in that, right? And it's where sport is different to training in the gym, right? Because in the gym, you can pretty much, you want to reap as many rewards as possible for a minimal amount of time spent, because people are time poor. They're not at university as a full-time athlete. They're not getting paid for it. They need to kind of maximize those hours they have in the day. But, when you're looking at, a 17 to 18 hour of exercise a week, I mean, that is wild.
And I was sleeping like 9 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right. So like my mornings would be lazy, like plus if I was just going to go out an easy run or something, but I wouldn't, because all of my classes were in the evening, then I wouldn't be doing anything until like 2 p.m.
And this is what I always explain to people. And with athletes, it's like, you see these social media influencers like maximizing their recovery, and they're doing all these protocols and recovery walks and ice plunges, etc. But the reality is the best rest is doing fuck all. Like literally sitting on this. Like most professional athletes, they'll be doing those 15 to 20 hour training weeks. But in between that, they're sleeping 10, 11 hours at night, and they're sat on the couch because they can't do anymore.
Yeah.
They are literally recovering and fueling in those gaps between training, and they're living to the next session, expiring as least energy as possible. And I think social media can kind of delude you into thinking like athletes are doing all this extra thing, but really they're just they're chilling.
Yeah. And this is the biggest thing that then you come into, is that when you're resting and recovering, are you actually resting and recovering, or are you still switched on and thinking about the training or thinking about maximizing everything? Because you have then a bit of spare time to then think, okay, let me just do more. Let me focus more on the mindfulness side, and you start to treat everything with a professional, like all in attitude, which is something that I found out there, is that all in doesn't work for me. And I've looked actually in some of my best races, and it comes back to that season that I was really struggling, was that everything was on that race. I didn't have anything else in my life that mattered more than a random measure of success of that race. And so now I think when I get back into the sport, it's, I'll be working, I'll be training to a decent level, but outside of that, and I'll have like my social life, and outside of that, I won't be thinking about training.
Yeah.
You look at the workings of the environment out in the States, and I've used it here, is I get everything done at the training ground, at the track or in the gym. I get all my recovery done there so that I don't take it home.
Gotcha.
And so here now, when I'm doing all of my rehab and I'm waking up, like I'll wake up pretty exhausted, and I have done maybe for the past like year and a half, just because my body needs a bit more to treat the injury. And mentally it's like, you're kind of always like, is there something I can do? And like, I won't train unless I really need to. I won't train here at the gym, which is bizarre because it's like, I could, and it could be really convenient. I won't train at home. I'll do all of the stuff at the gym in Tunbridge.
But you have that
so I have it completely separate.
Yeah.
And so I'm not thinking about anything else in between that, other than at home I'm recovering, or now like editing the podcast, which has been fun.
Yeah, it's an association thing. Like, I will very rarely drink in my house. There might be the occasion where I'll have a few beers with my girlfriend, but I don't really associate this space as, you know, having a drink, etc. Whereas it used to be, this barn used to be a fucking party house. Like, it was all open plan. It was just crazy from my teenage years. I would, you know, and there was an association to my house being this party house, but I had to really cancel that out when I started the gym. And I was like, no, I'm not doing parties here anymore, because I have an association. This is, well, one, it's my flat upstairs, but two, this is where I work. And very much I'm in the mindset of, when I'm on the farm, I'm working pretty much. And it's difficult to get that divide, especially when it's homely. So that's why I quite like going out. And when I leave the farm, that's when I can finally start to break free of that work mindset. But I find it quite challenging to switch off when you live above where you work and you exercise. And I guess I don't have that being able to compartmentalize elements of my life and associating to it. So it becomes more of a challenge, but you're doing the right thing, right? And I can't do that. But
I found that when I was here, when you were in Rio, and I was here doing maybe like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, staying at the gym.
Yeah.
And especially Thursday, Friday. It's like Thursday I'll go until 8 p.m. and then Friday it's like 6 a.m. So you pretty much just go to sleep. You wake up and then you're back downstairs like coaching someone.
You don't
and they're like, what have you been up to this week? I was like, I don't fucking know. I haven't left this place.
It's
because it is a big thing.
The office calls you in when you, you get sucked into it and you get a message and you think, I could just do that. But look, I don't care, because for me, at the end of the day, if I'm in an environment where it allows me to work really hard and build the business up really quickly, which it is, I validate my happiness off productivity. And a lot of people might not be that way inclined, but a lot of people might resonate with that. And if I'm being productive and working towards my goals, I'm pretty happy. Like, you know what I mean? And if my life is set up to be as productive as possible, then I'm a pretty happy person. I'm more stressed out, you know. Sometimes when people say, "Guy, just take a rest," or "You don't have to work this evening," I'm like, no, because then I won't have to be able to have Sunday off. And Sunday's my day off where I don't do anything. And that's, I don't necessarily look forward to it because I enjoy the work, but I make myself rest on the Sunday so I can come into Monday being like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, you slow down to speed up again. I think
that's something
decompressing.
Because before I would work Sundays as well, and I just think, it's just a few hours coaching, or two, even if it was 1 hour coaching. Then before you know it, you do that hour coaching, you come back upstairs, and then you do a couple and then it's 3 hours. Then I'm and then you never get a break, and productivity starts to dip then, because you're never taking yourself out of that, like not even environment, but mindset of work. But yeah, it's interesting hearing about Clemson and hearing about how you compartmentalize your life as here is work, home is rest, and then your gym locally is where you train. And I think it's a very good way to live. And you know, a lot of people do that very well in their lives, and a lot of people don't.
It's also worth saying that I live at home. I don't have a girlfriend, and in the week, because I'm living in Tunbridge, there's really not much social going on.
If there's any young, single, 20-year-old girls listening into this podcast...
I'm 24.
Well, you're young.
Bump it up to 22.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, 20. No, I don't. In your 20s, Charlie. In your 20s.
Just 20-year-olds.
But no, one day, Charlie, you'll find someone quite nice like myself, but just like the
you.
Feminine version of me.
Okay, just without the tash.
So, look, we've spoken a lot about running. Now, tell me, Charlie, since I've got to know you, it really has. You've revealed to me that you're not a nerd, and okay. I have a big element of my life where I enjoy watching movies. Mm-hmm. I like playing video games. I like reading fantasy and sci-fi, and you don't. And for me, I use fiction as escapism, right? There's a real element of that. So I'm writing a fantasy book at the minute, and that's I leave myself half an hour each day to start building this world out, and I'm completely immersed. And I that's all I think about, and I get excited about it each day. Now, why don't you do any of that?
Yeah.
One. But what is your escapism? You know, that's what I'm really trying to get to here.
Mm-hmm. I would still probably say I'm a bit of a nerd, but just not in the sci-fi.
Yeah.
Not in the sci-fi realm. Like I grew up watching Nickelodeon, the Disney Channel, Cartoon Network.
I mean, most kids did, right?
Yeah. And like Takeshi's Castle, Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, great shows.
But not like the big films. Never went into the big films.
So Charlie's never
we spent a lot of time outside though. We were outside playing football loads.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. But no, I never went into the sci-fi realm. I was thinking about this the other day.
It really makes me think twice about you, to be honest, Charlie.
Yeah.
It really deeply upsets me.
No, a lot of the stuff I consume though is non-fiction. I consume a lot of podcasts. I'm thinking about, you know, in my downtime, like I'll just be chilling. I'll probably just watch YouTube. I got into watching gambling slots a lot. So they'd just be there with their money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just like getting big wins and then losing it all.
So is that your escapism, watching other people gamble? Because that's probably not the best thing, Charlie.
No, but at the moment it's a tough one because my escapism is normally running. And so my escapism really now is like my time in the gym in the evening. But I don't know. I don't really have much at the moment as a way of like properly escaping. But I need to find something because I am currently, not right now, but as you're listening to this, I'm going to be crippled. Yeah,
no, Charlie, I'm gonna get you on Berserk. I think it's gonna change your life watching that. It's an anime. It's one of the best ones. I mean, is it one of the... It traumatizes people, but it's a great introduction to grim, dark fantasy.
Me coming out of a general anesthetic, being all fuzzy, and then getting traumatized.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of recommendations I'm going to have for you, Charles. But I call Charlie Charles Xavier because he's a bit of a brainiac. He knows some things. He's very intelligent.
My name's not actually Charles Xavier. Zoe Lynch said the other day. She said, "Your name's really cool." I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Xavier, Charles Xavier." I was like, "It's not my name."
Well, this is the thing. Like, you didn't even know who Charles Xavier was when I started calling you Charles Xavier.
No, and then I thought it was an insult because what does he goes around?
It's a compliment. It's a massive compliment.
He's an ugly man.
No, don't diss Patrick Stewart like that. But he's intelligent.
Okay, thank you.
He can read people and change people's minds and manipulate. You know, he's the real deal.
Card games. My escapism is when I go in the evening with my friends and play card games in the pub.
Okay, what's your favourite card game?
We play a game we call it golf. Other people call it Cambio.
Oh,
it's
I like
four
Cambio.
cards.
Yeah.
Shithead.
Shithead's
big
good.
Shithead fans. And whist, knockout whist. You start off with 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you play much rummy?
Not really, no. Only when we're kind of that's maybe like 5th or 6th down.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, guys, we've been sitting here for 4 hours.
I mean, Cambio
It's a fucking great game, man.
Ella and I, my girlfriend, have some seriously arguments over that game. I mean, it's so tempting to cheat. So tempting.
How do you cheat?
You check your card, because it's like the four cards on the table, right?
Yeah, and you check the front two.
And then you're not allowed to check them again, right?
Yeah, but how are you not getting called out?
Oh,
that's crazy.
There's tactics. There's tactics to check those cards again. And the dealer can, when you're dealing the cards out, you can read underneath them as you place them.
Wow.
Yeah. You're obviously not a cheat.
I'm not a cheat because I'm actually just very good at the game.
Yeah, you've got a good memory.
Whereas, yeah,
I wouldn't want to play you.
No, because I actually pay attention.
I'll probably punch the wall and leave in a sulk.
Yeah. Sam tries to cheat sometimes when he's back in the UK.
Well, he's a good sport.
No, but Sam tries to cheat, but he's shit at cheating. So he'll cheat, and everyone will call him out for cheating, and he'll be like, "No, I didn't," and he'll still lose. But yeah, cards
are good. I enjoy a bit of cards. So, you're going to be leg up for 2 weeks from next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And by the time this episode comes out, Charlie will be post-op, probably in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I'll be giving him back massages and asking him, Charlie, when can you get back to coaching? Because I really need you to work. But,
and I don't know what to say.
Have you given much thought to what you're going to do?
Well, I'm hoping that we can record loads of podcasts this week, and then I'll be editing them and doing all the short form. We need something that's going to switch me off. Okay, what am I going to do? I haven't put much thought into it.
Oh, Charlie, I've got some solid suggestions for you.
Yeah.
But, we're coming up to the hour mark.
We can ask the listeners. The listeners give me loads of suggestions.
Well, listeners,
help me out.
What do you think Charlie should get up to? I think he should learn to knit. And then he can start stitching Barn Gym hoodies, so we don't have to, use a third party for that. We can just get him knitting in here 24/7.
My living room's going to become a little sweatshop.
Oh yeah. What else could you do for us? I think you could maybe research into creating supplements.
Okay.
Work out how to do all of that sort of stuff. But Charlie, look, I think we're going to call it there. We've done a good run. I just want you to end on one quote that's changed your life.
From someone else, or from... I've got a quote.
There we go.
This is a quote that has changed my life. I don't know where it came from. It just came into my head once. Which is, the thing you fear the most will set you free.
There we have it. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.